Hello. I apologize that I am absent today. I do have a kid home sick, but I know you guys will do a great job for our sub. You always do. And as always, if I get a good report for the last couple of days, we will have snacks on the block. So yesterday we talked about, or you talked about with the sub, how to classify triangles based on their angles. Today we're going to talk about how we can classify triangles based on their sides. So if our first one is an equilateral triangle. So if I look, this looks like it has the word equal in it. So the definition of an equilateral triangle is 3 congruent sides. Adjust my chair here. Or we could say all sides are equal. Our math definition, the one that you are going to see on the quiz that we are going to have on Thursday, would be 3 congruent sides. But a way to remember that is if we think congruent means equal, all 3 sides are equal. So an example, if I draw this triangle, and if we remember from when we did midpoint and bisecting line segments, these tick marks tell me that anything with that tick mark is equal. And I can even put a measurement here. So if I look, I have a triangle. Each side is labeled with the number 4, so each side is 4 of whatever unit I'm using. But even if I didn't have the numbers, if all I had were those tick marks, I would still know it's an equilateral triangle because those tick marks tell me that all 3 sides are equal. The next one is our let me try that one again. Our next one is our isosceles triangle. I don't have a fun way to remember this like I do the equilateral triangle. So the isosceles triangle has 2 congruent sides. So if I have a triangle that looks like this, and then I have these tick marks. These tick marks tell me that these 2 sides are the same, they are congruent. So that tells me that this is an isosceles triangle. I could put numbers to this. I could say that this is 7, 7, and 5. Again, I have 2 sides with the same measurement. That is an isosceles triangle. Our last kind of triangle is our scalene triangle. This bad boy has no congruent sides. And again, I don't have a fun way to remember the word scalene. If you guys can think of one, maybe you'll become a famous mathematician. So if I have a triangle that looks a little like that, and I have 4, 5, and 8. No tick marks. If I look at my measurements, every side has a different number. That is a scalene triangle. So what we are looking at on our notes today is not only classifying by the sides, but being able to classify by both the sides and the angles. I can tell you on our practice worksheet, for what we're going to do today, we are only going to work on the sides. We will work more on the angles, on doing both the sides and the angles on Thursday. But let's go ahead and dive in. So classify triangles by sides and angles. Let me see if I can get this. Oh, that looks so much better. So acute isosceles. So again, an isosceles triangle has 2 congruent sides. And if I look, I can tell by looking that not a single one of those angles is obtuse. if I have a right that is a really hard word to say. Let me try that again. If I have a right isosceles triangle, so those two sides are the same length, I have my right angle mark, and then I have my ticks. So so this little chair tells me that this is a right angle. I can sit right down. My tick marks tell me that these two sides are congruent or equal. This is a right isosceles triangle. An obtuse isosceles, so again, I'm going to try to make these the same length and give this a nice obtuse angle. And if you are asked to draw these, just know it doesn't have to be perfect. What I'm going to look for is your marking. So in this case, this is an obtuse angle. I have my tick marks that show me that these two sides are congruent, making it an isosceles triangle. All right, let's see if I can get this. Oops, there we go. Sorry, you got a nice close up there of my tattoo. Brains. Okay. So if I look at my next one, scalene. So a scalene triangle has no congruent sides. So if I look at an acute scalene, I'm just looking at a triangle. That's a really small picture. I'm going to see if I can try to make you guys a bigger picture. Okay, so these are terrible triangles. Obviously, you don't have to be an artist. So none of the sides are equal. They don't have any of those tick marks. Obviously, all my angles are acute. A right scalene triangle might look a little something like this. I don't know why when I draw scalene, I apparently draw small. I apologize. That would be a right scalene triangle. I have a right angle. I can sit right down. That's what that little box means. And I have no congruent sides. My obtuse scalene triangle, let's see if I can make this a little bit bigger for you guys. That has a nice obtuse angle. Okay, well, I made it a little bit bigger. So I have an obtuse angle. I have no tick marks. None of my sides are congruent. Obviously, if I ask you to draw one of these triangles, I am not looking for artistry. I'm just looking that you can mark it correctly so we know what kind of triangle it is. Okay. So if I look at my next one, an equilateral triangle is also an equiangular triangle. Equilateral, equiangular is all equal. It has 3 acute angles. Did you pick your clothes up? That's what I thought. Sorry. It's bedtime in our house. Oh, what you doing? Okay, so they have 3 acute angles. Each angle is 60 degrees. And we'll get into that more tomorrow when we talk about properties of interior angles of triangles. And then, of course, we can tell by the tick marks, all sides are the same length. So that is an equilateral and equiangular triangle. So if I look at the back, I can classify each side or each triangle by the sides and the angles. So I have 49 yards, and 53 yards. These two are the same, so I'm going to give myself a tick mark there. So I have 2 sides that are the same. And I look at my largest angle. My largest angle is this one right here, 90 degrees. So I have a right, because if I have a 90-degree angle, then that's a right triangle. Isosceles, because I have 2 congruent sides. Put it in the island dishwasher, please. So I have a right isosceles triangle. let's look at the next one. I have 5 feet, 5 feet, and 8 feet. So 5 and 5 are the same. I'm going to give myself the tick marks just to help myself out there. So I have the number of sides that are congruent. I have 2 congruent sides. My largest angle, I do not see an angle that looks obtuse in here. So I'm going to say that my largest angle would be an acute angle. I don't have a right angle marking. There's nothing in here that tells me that I have an obtuse angle. So I have 2 sides. All my angles are acute. So I have by angles, acute, and then 2 sides congruent. Tells me it's isosceles. Go brush your teeth. Make sure you brush your teeth. So I have an acute, isosceles. Sweetheart, you have strep. I would love to hug you, but I want you to keep your germs to yourself, okay? Oh, I like that idea. Give yourself a hug. All right. Brush teeth. Sorry. All right, so we have an acute isosceles triangle. Am I spelling isosceles wrong? Hold on. I am spelling isosceles wrong. Bad Miss Tracer, there should be an S there. We're going to pretend I've been putting an S there the entire time. Sorry. I used to be an English teacher. It'll be our secret. Okay. So if I look, I have 7 feet, 4 feet, 10 feet. I have no congruent sides. If I look, this is definitely an obtuse angle. It does not have a right angle marking that is bigger than a right angle. So I have an obtuse angle. And so I have an obtuse, because my first part is always going to be the name of my angle. And then if I have no congruent sides, that makes this a scalene triangle. So I have an obtuse scalene triangle. Okay. The substitute is going to pass out your worksheets. They will be collected at the end of the hour. These are for points. And I'm hopefully going to see you guys on Wednesday.